Turn to Luke chapter 8, please. Luke chapter 8. In our series, Go and Tell, we're going to look at a rather interesting story here in a moment, but go ahead and turn to Luke chapter 8. But I want to start off the verse from 2 Corinthians 5:17. Something that we all, I think, as God's children, need to be reminded of, and to pass on to others who are looking for a fresh start, or looking for new life. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5:17, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation." And here's the part I like. "The old has passed away, behold, the new has come." The old what? Well, elsewhere he talks about the old man of sin. We have an opportunity to have that fresh start, to be new in Christ. And I want you to be encouraged, my friends, but I also want you to be admonished to know that every single one of us in Christ, every believer, is a missionary. And we're going to show this little video here. I want you to watch.
I guess it started one morning. I was sitting in church, just a regular Sunday morning, and the pastor was talking about missions and long-term and commitment and all of these kinds of things. And I guess normally that would impact me a little bit, but this time it was different somehow. It was like God was pounding on my chest, and I just got this huge smile on my face, and I was ready. I just started looking at my life and asking myself, what would it look like for me to be on mission all the time, and devote my life to that and become a missionary, I guess. I remember growing up in church that missionaries would come visit. I was just always captivated by their stories, and I knew that there was a world that was so much bigger than my backyard, and that there were people in that world who needed to hear about Jesus. And I've always wanted to get out there and have the ability to tell people about Jesus and see that transform lives. I just kept hearing the same words: planting seeds, nurture, water, tend, person by person, life by life. Don't wait. You're ready. Just go. I felt like I was kind of waiting around, like, is this something that God would call me into? And when would that happen? Where would I go? What would it look like? And then all of a sudden, it was like this lightning bolt, like, there it is. There it is. It seemed almost obvious.
Put this in there. Thanks. All right.
My name is Bradley Martin, and I am answering God's call to go. And I am a missionary.
Every one of us is a missionary. We're all called to go. And it may not necessarily be to another continent, to Africa, South America, or some other foreign country. God calls us to go as we are going, right where we are, in our own hometown, in our own neighborhood. We're called to be on mission. Let's look in Acts chapter 8 for a moment, please. Luke chapter 8. And we'll be beginning with verse 26. Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. When Jesus had stepped out on land, there met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he had not lived in a house, but among the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many a time it had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demons into the desert. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. And they begged him not to command them to depart into the abyss. Now a large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him to let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and drowned. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they fled and told it in the city and in the country. Then people went out to see what had happened, and they came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had gone, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who had seen it told them how the demon-possessed man had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked him to depart from them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." And he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him. I want us to think, first of all, of this man's condition. His condition. Living in a graveyard, naked, possessed by demons, the name Legion, and if we take into account the number that made up a Roman legion at that time, we're talking 5,000 to 6,000. A violent man, broke bonds, people were terrified of him, he was an outcast, even among his own people, and keep in mind, we're in a pagan area now. We know this because there's pigs. We're in a Gentile territory. And these cities of the Decapolis were Roman towns. So we're in a very pagan area. No one was able to help this man. They were afraid of this man. He was cast out of all the social circles. Until the day he encountered Jesus. That was his condition. Secondly, let's look at his cure. Cried out in a loud voice, the demons crying out through him, What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you not to torment me. This account's also recorded elsewhere in the Gospels. And we see strong evidence here that these demons know who Jesus is. Sometimes the strongest testimony about a person comes from their enemies. Know your enemy, right? They know who he is. Kind of reminds me of that passage in James that says, even demons believe but tremble. They know who he is. And they begged him, don't judge us beforehand. Don't judge us before the time. Let us go into this herd of pigs nearby. And he allows that to happen. Of course, they run down into the lake, the Sea of Galilee, and drown. But the man was a new creation because the demons had been cast from his own heart, mind, and soul and body. He was a new creation when he met Jesus. Same as today. People can be healed of the penalty of sin in their life, and whatever, maybe in their own mind, demons that has a grip on them, can be a new creation when they encounter Jesus. His confrontation. Those tending the herd in the city ran off and told others what was going on. It caused quite a stir just in the town and that whole area. And many people came out to see, and they saw that this man's life had been totally transformed. The demons were gone. He was clothed. He was in his right mind. Now you would think this would be a happy moment. That they would be happy, but they were terrified of a man who could cast out demons. What a powerful witness is that of a transformed life in Christ Jesus. A powerful witness. But instead of rejoicing, they begged Jesus to leave. Leave before something worse happens. Now, if the number of pigs matched the number of demons, we're talking a lot of pigs. We're talking a lot of money and income as well. How did this man react? Well, we're going to see that here in just a moment. What was his commission? And this is what I want to focus on. He was very grateful to Jesus that these demons had been cast out, and he wanted to go with Jesus. He wanted to be with Jesus. I kind of wonder in the back of my mind how uncomfortable maybe the Jewish disciples of Jesus may have felt at the prospect of this formerly demon-possessed Gentile pagan man being in their number. I don't know. I just imagine in the back of my mind maybe they're a little uncomfortable with that prospect. But he wanted to be with Jesus. I think that is a reasonable thing to want, to be with Jesus. But what does Jesus tell him? Jesus tells him to go home. Go to your hometown. Go home and declare what God has done for you. But did he go home and say, well, it's just the preacher's job to go out and witness? No. Go home. And evidently he did. He went to all the towns of that area called the Decapolis. They were cities that the Romans had built in the eastern part of the Roman Empire there. And most likely, most all these cities are Gentile primarily and very pagan. Told him to go and declare what God has done for him. And I think that is the same commission that we have in Christ. Not just church leaders, but all of us who are in Christ. To go and declare what God has done for you. What God has done for me. Can you follow that commission? Can you follow that commission? When you go home today to eat your lunch, or if you go out to eat, can you follow that commission? When you go home in your family, can you follow that commission? When you go to work or to school or encounter people this week in the community, can you follow that commission to declare what God has done for you? Just tell someone what God has done for you. Or will you wait for somebody else to get around to it? Somebody else. I have yet to meet in person Mr. and Mrs. somebody else. They've eluded me. But yet I seem to kind of hear about them quite a bit. Will we fulfill to simply declare what God has done for you, for me, for us? Several centuries ago, there was a kingdom, and on the road was a boulder, kind of blocking part of the road here, and people would come by and they'd look at it, and many would just try to walk around the side of the road to get around it, and they'd sort of mutter and complain, somebody needs to see to it and remove this boulder. But they just sort of complain and mutter about, walk around and go on. And finally a gentleman comes along and sees this boulder, and as he is looking at it, he says, I'm going to try to do something. So he finds a part of a log or a limb, and he pries under that boulder and moves it to the side of the road. But underneath the boulder is a little bag and a note. And he picks up the note, and I want to read the note to you. Thank you for being a true servant of the kingdom. Many have passed this way and complained because of the state of the problem and spoken of what ought to be done, but you have taken the responsibility upon yourself to serve the kingdom instead. You are the type of citizen we need more of in this kingdom. Please accept this bag of gold that traveler after traveler have walked by simply because they didn't care enough to serve the kingdom. I wonder what bags of gold, what blessings we might be missing in our life because we won't stop and pause to serve the kingdom that God has put us in. What type of heavenly citizens are we? Are we going to be like this man who will pause and stop and do the work to help the kingdom? Are we going to fulfill the commission to which we've been given to simply tell someone else what God has done for me? What God has done for me. If you have a hard time telling someone what God has done for you, it seems to me you're going to have a difficult time truly communing with Him. Because isn't that where we remember what He has done for us? Are we going to confine it to these few moments of sharing the emblems only? When He says, go and declare what God has done for you. In the Old Testament, the city of Sodom was pretty corrupt. I would say in many respects our world is pretty corrupt, wouldn't you? In some respects, maybe even like that under Sodom and Gomorrah. Not even 10 people could be found in the city that were righteous and good. Not even 10 people. You know, through the centuries after that story, particularly when the age of the synagogue came along, and through the New Testament period, and even to today, the Jews will not establish a synagogue unless they have at least 10 men. 10 men. That's sort of become their standard of you got to have at least 10 guys to establish this place dedicated to God of learning. 10 guys. Men, it's our responsibility in Christ to lead in God's church. Do we have 10 men? I'm putting out a challenge today. I'm putting out a challenge for 10 men in our congregation. Now, I'm not going to rule out the ladies. Ladies, I think you can declare the praises of God and what God's done in your life. But right now, I want to call for 10 guys. I'll put my name on the top of the list. Not that I'm the top guy, but 10 guys just 10, who are willing this week to go and tell somebody what God has done for you. And I'm going to put this challenge with a little teeth in it. Some accountability. If you are willing, I want 10 guys to indicate to me, come to me in person, email me, text me today, that you're willing to do this, and on Saturday afternoon, I'm going to check up on you. Who'd you talk to? What was the gist of your conversation? That's all I'm going to ask. 10 guys to simply talk to at least one person this week of what God's done in your life. And you share from your heart what God's done in your life. 10 guys. Can we get 10 guys to do that? I certainly hope so. Because I don't want our congregation to become a spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah. The outcome there was not pretty. 10 guys. And you know you don't have to go far. I love that video. When I first saw it, I thought, I wonder where he's going. And then I saw that car coming over. Wow. Right next door. It might be your next door neighbor. It might be a waitress at a restaurant that you go to lunch today. It might be someone in school, someone in the workplace. 10 guys. Let me know. I hope before this day's out, I got a list of 10 names. And maybe in the middle of the week, I'll just put a little reminder to you. Don't forget. Don't forget. Let me know. Let me know. But think about it. If we did that every week, without necessarily having to have someone double check on us, what a powerful witness we could be in this community. Let's stand.